What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down one of the most explosive and one of the craziest route runners entering the draft this year. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you are a wide receiver or a quarterback and would like to train with us this offseason, we are going to be traveling out to 12 more states across the country for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. Next up on our camp tour, we'll be coming out to Charlotte. That camp is completely sold out, but then we'll be out in Dallas, Texas, the DMV, St. Louis, Missouri, Honolulu, Boston, Cleveland, Austin, Seattle, Newark, Denver, and Los Angeles. So if you guys are local to one of those cities and would like to train with myself, my staff of coaches for a whole weekend, 8 hours of training over 2 days, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you out. Let's get started with this video. So now, first route and first player we're going to be talking about today is Zay Flowers. So Zay Flowers is a wide receiver out of Boston College, and this guy runs insane routes, very explosive. He rakes a lot of plays after the catch that we're going to be breaking down today as well. Very, very explosive wide receiver that we can all learn from. So this first route here is going to be a stop and go route, right? So like this is one of those double move routes that they look for in those kind of faster wide receivers. Can you get separation on double moves at the next level? So anytime that you're doing a double move, whether it's a post corner, whether it's an out and up, whether it's a sluggo, that first move you have to sell. And it's pretty self-explanatory, right? That seems like basic advice, but not a lot of wide receivers can do that. So on a stop and go, we actually have to be able to decelerate and put the brakes on to try to drive this DB down, especially when this DB is in like zone coverage. Let's say it's cover 3, for example. When a DB is in cover 3, his responsibility is the deep third of the field, right? So he's trying to not get beat deep. So if I have a deep route like a double move route, to get this guy to crash, I have to decelerate on my route. So anytime that we were running a route, the easiest way to decelerate is to drop my pad level. To put the brakes on, I have to almost think of it like I am sitting in a chair with my lower body, and with my upper body, I'm trying to touch my chin to my knee. That is the position that you can stop the quickest and be able to decelerate the fastest. So when we drop into this break, you see how Flowers snaps down, right? His pad level lowers. He's sitting his butt down like he's in his chair. His chin goes to his knee. That puts the brakes on, and that forces this DB to have to stop himself. He has to stop his momentum. Because it's not like man coverage when this DB is in zone, right? When he's in zone coverage, he's looking to the inside, right? His eyes are looking to the quarterback. His eyes are reading maybe another wide receiver. So we have to go, he's going off of feel, right? He's essentially in this like blind spot, if you will. So when we're in that blind spot, we have to stop my momentum quickly on a dime to force that reaction, and that is how you could do it. And Flowers does that time and time again with his routes that we were going to be breaking down today. Like I said, a very explosive wide receiver. So whenever I'm doing a stop and go, what a lot of wide receivers will do is they'll just chatter their feet, right? They'll go up, they'll run up, and they just kind of give like a little chatter. There's no real speed change, and then they try to accelerate past the DB. That's not going to get him to drive, fellas. To get this DB to drive, to get him to crash on this stop, I actually have to change levels. I actually have to sit my butt down into a chair, bring that chin to the knee, almost treat it like somebody threw something at the top of your head, and you have to duck down underneath, because that will put the brakes on and force more of a reaction. So let's play this again, full speed one more time. Great job by Flowers getting separation on this stop and go, and also keeping his head down for a few steps to separate from the DB and dealing with that underthrown ball. So now, this second example here from Flowers is, like I said, a play where he has the ball in his hands. He's getting yards after the catch. So anytime wide receivers ask me about, hey, coach, what can I do to get more yards after the catch? What can I do to get, more yards even after contact? And all of it applies directly to route running. They ask, like, hey, do you have any drills for change of direction? Do you have any drills for yards after the catch? And all of it is what I would teach for route running. If you're a good route runner, you're going to be good at changing direction. So, look at a guy like Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson this year made a lot of plays. Same thing at Ohio State. He made a lot of plays. But he also made a lot of plays with the ball in his hand. But when he had the ball in his hand, he was pretty much just running routes. He was running digs. He was running curls. He was doing all kinds of things, running a speed cut, like any type of speed cut move off the line. He was doing all of those things just with the ball in his hands. So if you want to become a better ball carrier, like let's say you're a running back watching this. Let's say you're a wide receiver and you want to make more explosive plays, because that's what's going to help you stand out on film. Improve your route running. Let's get better at our route running. So when he's making this change of direction, it's the same exact thing. It's just like snapping down like what you would on a dig route. It's the same type of change of direction that you would have on a stop route, or at least the mechanics of it, right? So when he makes this break, he's running full speed and he's got to put the brakes on a dime. So to put the brakes on a dime, you have to do something called a trigger step. So like, let's say he's running a dig, let's say he's running a curl. Number one thing on every single route is you have to sell what? We have to sell vertical, right? I have to make this DB think that we are going deep. I have to get him to open up his hips, turn and run with me, and then I put the brakes on, hoping that he doesn't have enough time to react. So you not only have to sell the route, but you have to make a sharp cut. So just like when you're running with the ball in your hands, we're trying to make a defender think that we're trying to just turn up the sideline, and we got to put the brakes on and slip underneath, hoping that he doesn't have time to react and time to make a tackle. So it's the same type of mechanics. So this first step is what we call that trigger step. This is the step that puts us in a low position to where I can decelerate. So when I do that trigger step, it is very important that I'm thinking about three things. I'm thinking about being violent with my hips. Almost treat it like you got a string attached to your chin and somebody's pulling that string down. So when he hits that trigger step and it's time to break, he's aggressive with it. It's an aggressive change of levels because that aggression, that violence helps you guys slow down when you are running with a high speed. If you just try to chatter your feet when you're running full speed like how he is, you're not going to make a sharp cut and it's not going to be explosive. It's going to be lazy, it's going to be slow, and that DB is going to have time to react. So it's got to be a violent change of direction. So when he snaps down, number one, does he snap down on his heel first, or does he snap down on the ball of his foot? He snaps down on the ball of his foot because that is an explosive step. So many wide receivers, when they try to make change of directions like this, they think, oh, I can't do that. I'm going to hurt my knee. I'm going to hurt my ankle. Everybody's so worried about hurting themselves these days. I don't know why. But it's because you see guys hurt yourselves on Sundays, on Saturdays, on TV, whenever you're watching football with knee injuries. And it's because they have improper foot strike and maybe they lack leg strength, ankle stability, and knee stability. So you guys all probably saw Odell hurt his knee in the Super Bowl. When he put the brakes on with a step similar to this. You guys probably all saw Jameson Williams at Alabama hurt his knee. And the reason why they hurt their knee is because they were moving at a high speed, but they struck the ground on their heel. So when you guys snap down and you have that violent drop, but you're on the ball of your foot, that's an explosive position. That's going to help you drive out of the break. You're not only getting low because you're changing levels, but because you have the correct foot strike, you are going to be in a position to where you can drive out of the break. And when I can drive out of a break, combining that with speed, combining that with an explosive drop, that is very, very tough to guard and very, very, very tough to tackle. And that's why Flowers is just an insane athlete. You see some of the plays that he makes just with the ball in his hands alone is enough to get that guy drafted very high, I think. So now the next thing is when you guys snap down, a lot of guys will get low, a lot of guys will change direction, but their upper body kills them. They'll be way too tall with their chest. They'll snap into a break, but their chest will be pointed up, their chin will be pointed up, and that will cause you to almost lean back, which will make you slip out of your break, your feet will get out from underneath you, and we lose explosion. So remember, we want to be violent, we want to have the correct foot strike, we want to get low, and almost think of it like you were trying to touch your chin to your knee. Just like that stop and go that we talked about. We want chin to touch the knee, so I'm in a low explosive spot, and I can put the brakes on quickly to get in and out of those cuts. That is a textbook cut there from Zay Flowers. Again, if you want to get better at this kind of thing, you want to add these tools to your game, let's get better at route running. Let's work on our digs. Let's work on our comebacks, work on our hitch routes, our stop routes, where we have to put the brakes on with my hips. Because fellas, football is football. The routes might differ. You might have different situations, but the brakes, the way you change direction, and the way you sell things all will stay the same. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Flowers putting the brakes on, showcasing that extreme explosiveness that he has. So this is a route here from the Shrine Bowl. This is probably the most recent clip that we have of him running routes. And this is from the Shrine, it's kind of like the Senior Bowl, I would say. It's maybe a little bit like a lower scale, maybe not as highly publicized, but there are a lot of good players that go through this, and Flowers is a perfect example of that. So he's going to be running a 10-yard out route, right, out of the slot. So a lot of times the best route runners, and this is something that you see in the NFL a lot. You look at guys like Davante Adams, you look at guys like Justin Jefferson, they have an insanely high football IQ, and it seems like everything that they do is so smooth. And the reason why it's so smooth is because they have a plan. They have a plan of action based on the routes that they are given, based on their playbook, and based on the DB's look. So this DB is lined up inside shade and press coverage. Flowers is off the ball, he's out of the slot, and he has to run a 10-yard out. So what a lot of guys will do, the mistake that they will make versus this inside shade press look, is they will just take off and try to run. Well, he's inside shade. I have an outside route. I could just beat him to the outside right now. But that's exactly where the DB wants you to go. And that's where it comes having that high football IQ. So if I got a DB who's lined up inside shade, I know that he's trying to protect the inside. That means he does not have any help, like the safety help, linebacker help. He's got nothing to the inside. So if I have to run an outside breaking route, I can't just take off and run, because that's exactly where he wants me to go. He's going to get hands. He's going to force me to the sideline. And if I have to run an out, he's going to be right on my hip, and I didn't give the quarterback enough space to lead me. He's not going to throw that, because if he does throw it, it's going to be a pick six the other way. So what we have to do is off the line, we have to get into his cushion and try to attack his leverage. Let's keep him honest. We don't need to break his ankles. Let's just keep him honest to the inside. So when I burst up on my route, I can get skinny and hopefully try to restack. Now, what if you don't restack? And that's where it comes into having a plan. That's where you look at guys like Justin Jefferson, Adams, all those guys that we talk about. It looks so smooth because they've, one, repped it out, but two, they have a plan of action. They come up to the line, they see a look from a DB, that's what determines what they do. And it's not complicated, fellas. Davante Adams does the same type of hezzy release almost on every single route. It is not complicated. It's just finding what works for you and knowing why it works and knowing why a DB plays a certain way. So again, attacks his leverage off the line just to hold him inside. Takes the outside release. Yes, we would love to stack him here, but sometimes a DB is going to be in a good position. So if he's in a good position, what can you do at the top of the route on an out route? You can lean into him. Use your body to your advantage. We have plenty of space to the outside. Just because we took an outside release doesn't mean I want to run away from him and just run over here to the numbers. I want to give that quarterback as much space as possible. So let's get skinny. That essentially means you want to be hip to hip with this DB off the line. Imagine if he would have came off the line, attacked his leverage, and then ran away. DB would have the angle, he would get right on his hip, and that out route would be shortened, plus it would be tight coverage. So let's get skinny. Let's get hip to hip with him. I want to give the quarterback as much space as possible, and this is a way wide receivers can push off without getting a flag called. Because if you're here, and let's say you use your arm and you just extend and push the DB and you get a ton of separation, that's a flag. But if you just lean into him with your entire body, you put your body into his hip while you're running at full speed, when you make that cut, that can get you a lot of separation. Now, DB played this thing pretty well, but look what we did here. Because I got skinny, because I attacked his leverage, I didn't just take off and run. We gave that quarterback space. And at the next level, college ball, because I know a lot of you are high school wide receivers, and then especially from college to NFL, those quarterbacks are so talented. So they can put the ball, like, this is open. Like, I played quarterback. I understand this. Like, if you got a guy by a step, you're open. I'm giving you the ball, and I can put it wherever I want. Especially a quarterback at that caliber level can put the ball wherever he wants. And if we just give a guy a chance, that's an easy play because those are some of the best athletes out there. They're going to make that catch. That's a textbook route there from Flowers. And again, and maybe it's not the prettiest thing in the world. He didn't break his ankles. He didn't juke him out of his shoes off the line. But again, it's a smart route. It's a high football IQ route. That's how you run routes, right? Sometimes DBs are going to be a good position, but if I run a good route, if I understand and it's efficient and I know why a DB's playing a certain way and I can use that to my advantage, if we run a good route, DB doesn't have a chance. It's not about what the DB does right. It's about what the wide receiver does wrong. And I see a lot of that in Flowers' game. Very, very intelligent, very high football IQ, and that's going to get you a ton of separation at any level of football. So next example here I want to talk about is a corner post from Flowers. And this obviously works a DB, gets him all twisted around. So I just want to talk about the mechanics of running a double move like this. So in the very beginning of this video, we talked about a stop and go. So now on a corner post, if you're running a post corner, you got to make sure, again, that we sell the break with three specific things. Every route, what were we trying to sell? Fade, right? So if I'm running a corner post on this route, it changes. I'm trying to sell corner instead of fade. So when I break to this corner, for me to flip this DB, it's pretty much the same thing. I got to sell with some speed because if I'm running an actual corner route, is anybody going to break to the corner half speed, like 50%? No, nobody's going to run a corner route 50% because that makes it an easy play for the DB. So to threaten him, to force him to turn, I got to have some speed there because that's how I would actually run the corner. Number two, if it's like off-man coverage, this is more so like a zone coverage concept, but if it was off-man, a DB is going to be watching your hips and shoulders, not your eyes. He's going to be watching your body language. So you have to make sure that you commit your hips and your shoulders to the corner. Trying to look back to the quarterback certainly helps. Don't get me wrong. I just think your body language and your speed is more important. And then what's the last one? Stride. Because nobody runs a corner route and then takes choppy strides and then, oh crap, I got to accelerate up and catch the ball. They break, they run full stride, full speed, and they commit to it. That's what's going to get you separation, fellas. So it's the same thing as selling a fade on your double moves. It's just now you're going to have to make a second additional cut to accelerate out of the break. But fellas, Flowers, incredible salesman, knows how to sell his routes. He knows how to change direction. And we showcase from that example, he has a very high football IQ. All of those things is what makes a good route runner. If you're sitting there and you're a high schooler or a youth guy and you're not sure, like, oh, maybe I'm undersized, maybe I'm fast, but I'm short, or maybe I'm a big guy, but I'm not very fast. Well, my route running is a huge asset to me. What do I need to do to be a good route runner? You got to know how to sell your routes. You got to know how to change direction on your routes, and you got to have a high football IQ. All three of those things is a recipe for a great route runner. And you see it time and time again in the NFL, college, and even in high school nowadays. So this is a great example of that from Flowers. And obviously this guy can run insane routes and is very, very talented. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you'd like to come out and train with us in 12 different states this offseason, we're going to be coming out to Charlotte, North Carolina, all the way to Los Angeles, California. So very first link in the description below. We'd love to see you guys out there. I'll see you guys next time.